Previously on this channel, I've covered basic tips on how to enjoy the Ren Fair. These tips were meant to cover a general swath of Renaissance festivals across the US. However, it should be acknowledged that not every Ren Fair operates in the same way. Each have their own set of unique traits and quirks. So in light of that, I thought it would be helpful to make a specific video dedicated to the fair that I am most familiar with, and that many of you have told me that you've decided to visit because of my videos. And that is the Colorado Renaissance Festival, where I'm at today. In the interest of making things a bit more, well, interesting, I will not be giving you these tips alone, because today I will be joined by a few of my friends and they will be giving their tips on how to enjoy the Colorado Renaissance Festival. And to kick things off, we will be addressing the elephant in the parking lot. Parking. What time should you actually arrive to the fair?
So there's a lot of fear on the internet about parking here, especially Pirates Weekend. There'll be a post that goes out on the Facebook group, don't get here before 7 a.m., we won't let you in. So then a lot of people think they need to get there earlier. It's not necessary. There's just a group of people who are kind of crazy who like to get there early and camp out and hang out with their friends. If that is not you, there's no reason to get here before 8:30 to 9. Traffic starts to pick up about if you aim for 9:30. There's two parking areas. There's the lower parking and the upper parking. If you park in the upper area, there is a shuttle that drives you down to the front, so you don't have to do a crazy hike, and it's pretty regular. They have multiple buses.
And to add to what Jordan said, all of what she said is perfect and as far as the timing goes. If you wait too late, if you get here after the fair starts, expect a little bit of traffic and also expect to park further away. There is some overflow parking and you will have to take a shuttle in. Sometimes it's a little bit of a walk to the shuttle area, but it isn't too bad. So again, there's a lot of fear mongering about the parking, but they do have a very good system here. So let's say you can't get here at open. If you're looking for an alternative time, around noon when people are leaving after, like around lunchtime, might also be a good time. But any other people that might have insight can correct us in the comments down below. We love a good discourse. Let us know down below, because I'm always the idiot that gets here at 10:30 and then I sit in traffic. And I park really far away. So one must acquire tickets to gain entry. Now, there are several ways to do that. Firstly, you could buy your tickets online on the Colorado Renaissance Festival website. However, you can also buy your tickets in person in two different places. First, of course, the box office at the front desk. Second, you can actually get them at the customer service desk at the King Soopers grocery stores, which are found all over the general area. Now, it is cheaper to get them at King Soopers, so if you have a little bit time before you get to the fair, I definitely recommend going there first to get your tickets. It's only by a little bit. It's $28 per adult last time I checked, whereas if you buy them online, it's $31.50, and I think that's before tax and fees. At the gate, I want to say it's about $30 or $32. Don't quote me on that. I will find out and insert that here. You're going to need cold hard cash. All of the food vendors, including the beverage stations, only take cash, so you will need this. Definitely plan accordingly. There are ATMs located throughout the park. However, they do take a fee and they only take debit card. And this is probably where you're wondering, what about the artisan vendors? Do they take cash only or do they accept card? Well, the short answer is yes, they do accept card. The more complicated answer is it really depends on the vendor. A lot of them do have a preference for cash. However, instead of taking my word for it, I'll let my friend who owns a booth at the fair explain it for you.
Hi guys, I'm an artisan here at the Colorado Renaissance Festival. I think it was mentioned earlier about cash. Most of us do take cards. Depending on internet, it does kind of get tricky sometimes. We also kind of prefer cash because we have fees on our side that we have to pay, but usually we take both. Also, one other thing, we tend to have change, but maybe don't pay with 100 first thing in the morning because that might take all of our change for the day.
In my opinion, one of the biggest differences between this fair and some of the other larger fairs, especially on the East Coast, is the weather. Technically, it does get hot because it is the summer. It averages about 85 degrees, but as your dad would say, it's a dry heat. But one of the other big differences is also the elevation, which can sneak up on you. So you're like, oh, it's a dry heat, I'm not gonna overheat. Yes, but that elevation can kick your run. So even if it's not as hot as the other fairs, I definitely recommend still staying hydrated. If you have any health conditions like POTS, bring some electrolytes to mix in with your water, whether you plan on buying water or if you fill up at one of the many drinking stations. There is a new drink filling station called the Fountain of Youth or Ye Olde Hydration Station. It's located between Pirates Pub and the Rose Stage behind where the swings are. And there's some benches there to sit down as well, like if you need to sit and eat or take a breather. But because of the high elevation, one thing that can happen is if you're not used to it, if you're from sea level, you will get winded a lot easier. So definitely take breaks. There are plenty of hills, which I'll get into the terrain in a little bit. But if you're wondering, why am I out of breath and I've only gone like 5 steps? That might be why. You might not have acclimated to the high elevation. The air is a bit thinner. The other side effect to this is also the sun is a deadly laser. So definitely wear SPF because you burn a lot quicker. You're going to be extra crispy, especially if you are my complexion. So don't skimp out on the SPF. Definitely be reapplying every 2 hours. So put that bad boy in your bag. Don't leave it in the car unless you plan on going back to your car. Besides the SPF, there is quite a bit of shade, but if you are sensitive, maybe wear a wide brim hat. Maybe bring a parasol. As I say this, the sun comes out. Bring a parasol for your own portable shade. Again, I'm going to reiterate bringing electrolyte packets because if you are sweating more, you're going to be losing more minerals. So if you don't want to like go through heat stroke, heat exhaustion, have those handy. Other alternatives are they do sell Gatorade at some of the drink booths, the places where you can buy beverages. Also, you should probably get a pickle, or you can also ask the pickle guy or gal or they to get a shot of pickle juice, which I heard helps to replenish your electrolytes. Hold on, husband, come hither. Pickle juice, does it help?
Yes, very much. If getting the pickle doesn't help you, ask for the pickle juice. It will definitely help you with rehydration, especially when the heat's like this.
You might get a little bit more thirsty because it does have sodium. However, that is why you also hydrate with water. Do not neglect the water. Additionally, I don't think they have it here, but we did it at Scarborough. We bought coconut water. First, we bought the overpriced coconuts at the coconut stand, but then the next day we brought ourselves some like coconut water to keep in our cooler at the car. So even if you don't plan on going back to your car to hydrate during the day, maybe still have a cooler in there with some things to keep you hydrated at the end of the day, like coconut water. We definitely felt a lot better when we drank the coconut water. Speaking of Larkspur being particularly high elevation, the fair itself is situated on the side of a mountain. That being said, the fairgrounds do have quite a bit of hills, so I would recommend wearing very comfortable shoes, especially with tread, and expect a little bit of a hike. If you're looking for specific recommendations of shops to try, first of all, you should check out some of my Colorado Renaissance Faire vlogs from past years because one of my favorite things to do is to feature vendors and artisans so that you can see where I've shopped. For example, last year I frequented the Scott shop who now have a renovated booth. And then I got my fairy pewter mug from Fellowship Foundry, and then the hat that I'm wearing in this video I got from Craven Crow Costuming. But if you're wanting some recommendations from someone who is not me, here are some recommendations from one of my fair friends who is positively dripping with fair swag.
Hello! I feel like it's so hard to choose a favorite because they're all really, really good, and it takes a lot to get into this fair, but I'm wearing some of my favorites that I look forward the most to like visiting every year. Both skirts are from Unicorn Clothing, and I believe they have multiple booths throughout the fair. This is from the Armored Fairy, and also my boot pills. My favorite leather worker here is Lost Sailor. They just do such a unique dye job that I've like never seen anywhere else. Another one is Miles Ton Leather, which is where the top and this crazy bag that my boyfriend bought is from. The top is also Unicorn Clothing, I think. And then I also got this corset from the fair, but I modified it. And the bracer is from one of the archery booths. Oh, and also really excited about the Alchemy Valkyrie because that's like literally my favorite type of jewelry is bones and copper. Gritchels is super iconic. They got faces. And then I've also heard that in the coming couple years, there's gonna be a booth for all the elves with like really high quality elven clothing. So we will stay tuned for that.
As a little side note, she actually reached out to me and let me know that there were a few places that she actually forgot to mention that she wanted to include. First of which is Boss Wench, whom I'm also a really big fan of. Second is the Frock Shop, which she said she hasn't bought anything from there yet, but when she went in, she was super impressed with the quality and the uniqueness of the bodices and the skirts. And judging by these photos, I'm definitely gonna have to check them out myself. And lastly, she wanted to shout out Legends of the Forest, which is a really cool enchanted forest fairy themed shop. They have handcrafted elves, fairies, and mythical creatures, which is super whimsical.
When it comes to artisan booths, there are so many to choose from, and to be honest, it might take you more than a day to visit them all. And this is especially the case if you also plan on catching some of the shows and musical acts, which I definitely recommend not skipping. One thing that I absolutely love about the Colorado Ren Fair are the shows. I feel like we have a pretty decent variety of musical acts, comedy shows, and stunt performers. However, if you've been to a lot of fairs around the country, you might actually recognize some faces because much like some of the vendors, more than a few of them actually tour around the country to different Renaissance fairs. So there are multiple stages around the fair, so if you want to know who plays when, you can either go to the fair website to find the schedule, or you can grab a map on your way in, which has a list of what show plays on what stage and what times they go on, and so on and so forth. That being said, if shows are a priority for you, I highly recommend getting familiar with the schedule ahead of time or early on in your visit so you don't miss anything that you want to see. And if you were to ask me what my favorite musical show is, I'm pretty partial to the Crack Show because at this point it's tradition to go to their final huzzah. However, this year there was actually a new musical act that came to the Colorado Renaissance Festival, and I'm really hoping they return for 2027. I'm crossing my fingers. They're called Darv and Dove, and Darv is spelled D-A-M-H, and I only know that because they said it at their show, and I'm trying to be respectful and say it correctly. And I actually had the pleasure of getting to know the couple behind the instruments, and they are amazing human beings, so definitely check them out and support them. I will, of course, be linking to their social media down below, but besides that, what other shows should you check out?
So, do you guys recommend any good shows?
Maybe.
I guess, yeah. There might be one.
There's really not a bad show here at this festival. So, like any show that you try, you're like it's gonna be a good one. Though we are particular fans of Dragonfire. Really good. Tomfoolery, very impressive. His grand finale gives us anxiety.
I love Crimson Pirates.
Crimson Pirates is like one of the best pirate bands around. Yeah, like Crack Show is always fun. And we have a new buddy this year who performs in the lanes, the Flying Dutchman. That is a trick line artist. So yeah, very interesting shows.
One of the fundamentals of Renaissance festivals is the joust. Much like the other shows, there are multiple show times, so if you miss one, you have an opportunity to catch another.
If it's your first time going to a Renaissance festival, or perhaps your first time in Colorado, you definitely need to check out the joust. But I could be biased.
Hi, I'm the bias, but she's friends with my wife.
Okay, so you have your cash in hand and you're starving. What should you get? The classic choice is the turkey leg. It's big, it's juicy, it's full of protein and sustenance, and it's $14, which I do say is on the cheaper end of Renaissance Fair turkey legs. I believe Scarborough, it costs about $19, and it's not as good. Other protein sources I've tried, steak on a steak, obviously, and the sausage on a stick. I also recommend the smashed potato. That's what I tend to get every time. And I get it fully loaded with cheese, sour cream, and butter. However, I do recommend stirring your smashed potato because they tend to put the cheese and the butter at the bottom. And if you don't know that, you might end up with a mouthful of butter and cheese at the end. And potatoes in general are a really good filling, energy-rich food, so really good for a full day of walking around and adventuring. If smashed potatoes is not your potato of choice, they also have really good French fries, tater tots, and I believe the food place next to the joust has actual baked potatoes. And I've also heard really good things about the fried green beans, which comes with this Thai dipping sauce that everybody raves about, as well as the artichokes, both of which I have not tried. I'm a creature of habit, but perhaps in the future I will venture out and try new things if you guys convince me down in the comments. This is not a food review channel, but it could be. Not really. As far as adult beverages, alcohol, you cannot go wrong with mead. I personally don't drink beer, so either the mead or the frozen margaritas tend to be my drink of choice. The frozen margarita is really good for hot days, but you also would like a little bit of a buzz. However, if you would like something on the frozen side that is non-alcoholic, they also have shaved ice, and there's also a popsicle stand, and I actually got to try the popsicles this year, and they are divine. I think I had like the berry lemonade flavor, and then my friend Chelsea had this strawberry coconut, I believe. Either way, we were both super thirsty and hot, and it really hit the spot. And then when it comes to actual non-alcoholic beverages, you can't really go wrong with the lemonade. It's not the world's best lemonade. I believe it's either Minute Maid or Tropicana, so it's pretty average, but on a hot day when you're super thirsty, it is really good. If you would like the lemon flavor, but without having to pay $4 for a glass of mostly ice, you can also refill your mug at the ye olde hydration station, like I mentioned earlier, and bring yourself like a lemon lime flavored electrolyte packet. The only downside is you won't have ice, but when it's hot, you gotta stay hydrated. We've covered this. We know this. I gotta reiterate, gotta make sure you survive. But also, I think I mentioned this before, there's also Gatorade, and I asked what flavor it is. It's like fruit punch. I personally don't like Gatorade because it's so sweet, but it's an option. And of course there's like soda pop and all that stuff. And I know whenever I make videos about Ren Fair, I get at least a handful of people asking me, what do I wear? And if you're wondering that, you're in luck because I have made several videos on that subject. Style guides, shopping guides, all of that. And I cover different price points and different arguments when it comes to where you source your garb. I don't really have any Colorado specific advice other than comfortable shoes with tread, like I mentioned before, but also prioritize natural fibers like cotton, linen, fabrics that breathe so that you don't get overheated. I like to stay fairly covered because the sun is a deadly laser and I always forget to apply SPF. This shirt is from Carmen Nepal Crafts and it is 100% cotton. I can get away with wearing long sleeves when I wear these tops because they breathe so well, and also the sleeve is super open. So yeah, avoid synthetic fabrics like polyester because they don't breathe. I know it's super tempting to get all your garb off of Amazon because it's so cheap, but most of the time those are polyester. The cheaper fabrics are also the synthetic fabrics. They might look the part, but they're more likely to send you to the first aid stand with heat stroke. A lot of small businesses and vendors at the Ren Fair prioritize natural fibers, so I definitely recommend sourcing your garb from places like that. A lot of people like to go into fair with like very basic outfits and then purchase things accordingly to add to their outfit. If you can't afford that, which I totally understand, I've been there myself, thrifting is also a great resource. You'd be surprised how much natural fibers and cotton you can find, especially from contemporary brands, because peasant-style tops and things like that have come into fashion in recent years. Of course, I'm speaking more about women's fashion than men's fashion, so it might be a little bit harder with men's fashion, but some of my favorite places to get garb, besides the Renaissance Fair, like the Scott Shop and all that, Zoot Suit Clothing is really great. Medieval Collectibles, I believe they're called, has really great medieval garb as well. They have a lot of options for cotton. Just make sure you're reading like the fabric breakdown before you place any orders because I can't guarantee everything is cotton and linen, but if you do your due diligence, you can find things pretty middle of the road when it comes to pricing. Again, I have videos all about this, so if you're looking for inspiration or some guides on how to put together a cohesive outfit, I will be linking that down below. And you are allowed to draw inspiration from my outfits. I always say copy me if you need help. I will never be offended if you do that because part of my job as an influencer, even though I hate that word, is influencing. So I will never be mad about influencing since it is my literal job. Another question that comes up a lot when I make these sorts of videos is trinket trading. So a lot of people will be asking, is trinket trading allowed at the Colorado Renaissance Festival? And the answer to that is a bit complicated because technically, yes. However, because of the behavior of some guests, there are some new rules in place, and I may not be up to date on all of them, but I'll do my best to kind of explain what's going on with that. Use common sense and don't trinket trade in the middle of a high traffic area. Don't block traffic. Additionally, you can no longer trinket trade inside the vendor booths. That should have already been a given because the booths are small as it is, and you can kind of disrupt the flow of shoppers and traffic if you're standing in the middle of the booth trying to trinket trade. Additionally, now vendors themselves are not allowed to trinket trade. I know a few people that have booths that used to have like baskets where you could trinket trade on your own, but unfortunately they had to take those down. Also, when it comes to trinket trading or giving trinkets to performers, whether they're the street performers, you know, when they're kind of off in the corner, or the ones on the stage, again, use common sense. Don't interrupt their performance to give them a trinket or ask them if they trinket trade. Let them do their thing. A lot of people, if they do trinket trade, will have a badge, so that's one way of knowing whether or not they trade or not. But there's a lot of discourse and a lot of controversy about giving performers in general trinkets because a lot of people are giving out those like cheap Amazon, Temu trinkets that are just kind of litter at this point. Obviously, if you made something special, you handcrafted something and you specifically want to give it to a performer or someone that you know at the fair, that is completely fine. Just also don't let it take the place of tips, because a lot of these performers, whether again, it's the street performers, the ones that are kind of in their little corner, or the ones on the stage, they do perform for tips. So if you're thinking, I'll just give them this keychain instead of dropping a couple $1 bills in the basket, that's kind of where the controversy has been. I know not everyone has the means to tip performance artists, but some people have used that as like a substitution, and that's kind of where the controversy lies, in addition to just giving them mass-produced pieces of plastic that they can't really do anything with. I know of a few performers that do appreciate the handmade gifts, but kind of have reservations about like the cheap plastic ones. So just keep that in mind. There's always a lot of like arguments and stuff that go on when this comes up. So just be kind. Be kind, don't get in the way. And also, if you're like, I can't afford or I don't have time to put together elaborate trinkets or like make something, honestly, sometimes like the well thought out little things are really cool. Like I've seen people give out like pretty rocks or acorns. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It's more the thought that counts, you know, the age-old principle we've been taught since we were in kindergarten. Lastly, there has been some controversy about people giving out too elaborate of trinkets that compete with vendors, so something that someone might sell at their shop. Be cognizant of that as well. Don't be taking business away from people where this is their entire livelihood. Last thing I want to say on this is if you're still confused and you don't know what the vibe is, what the rule is, because things change week to week, I definitely recommend going on Facebook, joining the Facebook group, and then there's also the official Facebook page where they make announcements. Ask a question and a cast member will more than likely give you more up-to-date information. Bathrooms, privies, porta potties. What is the bathroom situation at the Colorado Renaissance Festival? This is something that I definitely would want to know if I've never been. So first of all, there are flushable plumbed toilets at the Colorado Renaissance Festival, and I believe I know of 3 specifically. There might be more. One is down by the Joust. It's on the right, and I believe it's kind of near the petting zoo. There is a second one, like kind of on the other side. Like if you're facing the Joust and it's behind you, it's on your left, but then if you turn down, it's on your right. Go down that way. It's kind of in the middle and kind of near the globe stage, I believe. You'd think after a few dozen times at this fair, I would know directions. I'm directionally challenged. The third one that I know of is like if you walk into the fair and you just keep going down until the fair ends. On the right side, I believe it's after the Scott shop, kind of right around where the staffs are, where I got this bad boy last year. I believe it's that area. I know I used it right after I visited the Scott shop, so I do know of that one. However, the porta potties situation has improved this last year. First of all, they do clean them frequently. Second of all, the ones that I've been to were the fancy flushable porta potties, so you like stick your foot on a pedal and it... So you're not like staring directly at someone else's dookie, if that makes sense. And then the one that I use all the time, because I'm always at Alchemy Valkyrie, because that's where my friend's shop is, and I sometimes help her out. That one, like right next to her booth, booth 67, like straight up from the Rose stage behind where all the food is. Again, those have the flushable porta potties, but they also have plumbed sinks to wash your hands with soap, water, paper towels. It's still kind of stinky, but it's not as bad as it could be. What are my final thoughts? I know this was a lot of information to present to you at one time, and I don't expect you to remember everything. It can be a lot of pressure, especially if you're only coming for one weekend. So if you take anything away from this, don't put too much pressure on yourself to do everything, but just relax and enjoy yourself. Realistically, if you actually take the time to savor your experience and enjoy it, you're not gonna get to do absolutely everything. But that's fine. That just means if you come back, you're gonna have a completely different experience. Before this was my home fair, I too was a visitor, and it did take me a few visits before I could do absolutely everything, because I like to take my time and take it all in. So at the end of the day, that's what I recommend you do. You're gonna get a whole lot more out of it and enjoy it a whole lot more if you approach it in that way, even if you only get to come once. But I do hope you get to come back. And if you do, be sure to say hi, because I'm always there.